baby. Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Monday, August 12th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. Today on the show, we have waiver wire ads and drops from the weekend, starter sit decisions. Camilo Doval lost his job. How did that happen? And much more. Big thanks to you guys for holding it down. I didn't catch every episode, but I did listen to Fridays on the plane ride home, and I thought it was great. So good job, guys.
Wow. I'm impressed you did that. I don't know that I've ever listened to a Fantasy Baseball Today podcast all the way through. Got to be honest with you.
Come on, Scott.
I was listening when I was on vacation earlier in the year. Not to every episode, but tried to check in. I will say, I've become one of those, like, I listen to my podcasts on the faster audio.
Yeah.
And I listened to one of the ones that I hosted this week. And that was weird because, like, all the podcasts that I listen to are just podcasts that I listen to. So I only know them at 1.3x speed. But listening to us, who, like, I hear us talk and I know how we talk, and then listening to that on 1.3x speed was a little off-putting. I didn't enjoy that. That was jarring.
Yeah, I actually always listen to my podcast on 1.25 x speed, but I also edit in like 1.5, so I'm used to us just sounding like chipmunks while I edit it, so it's totally fine. If anyone's wondering, my biggest takeaway from my trip to Florida is the Jurassic Park roller coaster in Universal is amazing, and you should try it if you
Do they have a
already.
roller coaster?
Yeah,
the water ride?
No, I think they put it in recently. It's the Velocicoaster.
Okay,
it was awesome, and obviously I should still watch the movie, but yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump in.
Oh, no.
Let's get into it.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
So I caught that when I was laying in bed last Sunday. I was about to go to sleep. I was like, let me just check in and see how the guys are doing. And I heard Scott's rendition of Susan Waldman. I was like, I'm going to use that first day back. That was awesome. All right,
so
Scott.
You listened to Monday's show and Friday's show on your vacation.
I listened to the first minute of Monday's show just to make sure it was working. And then I left.
Just to make sure I didn't screw anything up.
Basically. And
that's the same reason I listened.
All right, Scott, you are up. Who is your player of the weekend?
Spencer Arrighetti, I think, is the obvious choice here. There was a few good ones, but Arrighetti is who I'm taking. And that's because he somehow found a way to up his previous start where he had 12 strikeouts, got 13 here at Boston. So now, obviously, that's 25 strikeouts in his last 2 starts. And in his last 6 starts, Spencer Arrighetti has a 3.25 ERA, 106 whip, 12.3 K per 9. So he's been going well for a while now, and it just seems to keep getting better and better. Not only is it 2 double-digit strikeout efforts in a row, it's 3 this season, which is not something you can really fake. Clearly, Spencer Arrighetti missing bats is a legitimate part of his skill set. He got 21 swinging strikes on 92 pitches. His explanation for this turnaround, I'll read you the exact quote. Just mixing really well. If you look at it, my 4-seam gets hit. That's one of the reasons I've tried to change the pitch mix a little bit in terms of usage percentages. So I like hearing that. I like hearing what I would tell Spencer Arrighetti come out of his own mouth. And, he's got this 5-pitch arsenal. 3 of them, other than, so not the 4-seamer, but 3 of the secondary pitches all have really good whiff rates. And he seems to recognize that. So I like that. That tells me that that his self-assessment is accurate and that maybe he can sustain something like this. What makes this start particularly interesting, though, is he actually upped the fastball usage. After cutting it way back in the 12 strikeout effort, he got it back up to 47% in this 13 strikeout effort. It was responsible for 9 of the 21 whiffs. But he also talked about how, getting that mix right. And I think he just used it better. He used it. I watched some of the highlights of it and how he set up the strikeouts. It was pretty impressive. So I think Arrighetti, he's only 47% roster. That obviously needs to change. As good as these last 2 starts were, His next is against the White Sox.
Yes.
And some context. 18 pitchers have had at least 10 or at least 3 starts of 10 strikeouts or more. And like, they're not all winners, right? Like Mackenzie Gore has fallen apart. Kevin Gausman has been a pretty big disaster this season. Sean Manaea is not exactly a big time strikeout pitcher. But Spencer Arrighetti is the first player this season with consecutive starts of at least 12 strikeouts. So,
wow.
Pretty impressive. And the thing is, like, when he got called up, the results were pretty bad, but every time I watched him, the stuff was there. You know, like it was obviously a skilled pitcher. He just needed to figure out the right approach, the right mix, whatever. And it sure seems like he has. You know, Scott mentioned the 3.25 ERA. It's 3.34 WHIP over the past 6 starts, averaging 6 innings per start. He's gone at least 6 in 5 of the 6. 49 strikeouts to 11 walks in those 36 innings. That's really impressive stuff. So, yeah, I think based on what we've seen the past couple of starts, Spencer Arrighetti's pretty close to a must-roster pitcher.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And especially when you consider he was going up against the Red Sox, who are one of the best offenses in baseball, especially against right-handed pitching. They're second in WOBA against righties this season. So really impressive stuff from Spencer Arrighetti. He's got the great matchup coming up this week against the White Sox, widely available. I think he just jumps to the top of the most added starting pitchers, or at least deserves to. Right now, It's Paul Blackburn. He's got the 2 starts with great matchups coming up. Yeah, but like if we're thinking just, okay, long-term over the final 2 months of the season, Arrighetti could maybe be a league winner, at least based on what he showed in these past 2 starts. So, yeah, I think I would just put him to the top of that list. And Chris, we'll go over to you for your player of the weekend.
Yeah, let's go with Gerrit Cole, who I think for the first time looked like Garrett Cole. He got 7 whiffs with the slider, 26 overall on 90 pitches, 26 whiffs on 52 swings. That is an absolutely bonkers whiff rate, 50%. The 4-seamer got 9 whiffs. The curveball, 7 whiffs on 9 swings. He only threw 15 of them, and he got 7 whiffs with it. So he had everything going. And when you look at like the movement profile of the pitches, nothing really looks all that different than it did before. So I don't know how much like tangible changed with Gerrit Cole, and you know the slider usage overall still not quite where it was in the past. He's still using the cutter a lot more than he has, but all that to say, this is still, I think, by far the closest Gerrit Cole has come to looking like the Cy Young version of himself. And we made this mistake once. There was, I think, a 6 strikeout and 5 inning start that we really reacted to, or maybe it was like
it was consecutive starts, one right before the All-Star break, one right after, where he looked good, but not like himself because the slider wasn't working. This was the first start where the slider was a wipeout pitch again, at least in terms of the results it got. You mentioned the 26 swinging strikes. You know, the last time Gerrit Cole had that many in a start was 2020. It was 4 years ago. So, yeah, I would say that's encouraging. That's a sign of Gerrit Cole being back to form. Yeah, I'm a little wary of going all the way into calling him back like you are, Chris, just because I did that in those 2 starts around the All-Star break. But if nothing else, I'm eager to use him when he faces Detroit next time. Yeah,
no, I think I'm absolutely starting him at least.
Yeah, that was the next question. Gerrit Cole 79% started on CBS, so that's a decent amount. At least 1/5 of CBS users don't have Gerrit Cole in their lineups, and at the Tigers is a really good matchup. 27th in WOBA versus right-handed pitching, so I think we're all in agreement there, right? Get Gerrit Cole back in your lineups, right?
Absolutely.
Yep. All right, player of the weekend for me is going to be Jake Burger. It took most of the season, but Jake Burger is on fire. He's well done, if you will. Homered each game this weekend since the start of July. 34 games. He is batting .313 with 5 homers, 24 runs, 26 RBI. Obviously, the counting stats could be better, but it's the Miami Marlins. But an OPS over 1,000 during that stretch, hitting the ball hard, 95-mile-per-hour average exit velocity, 18% barrel rate. This is about what we were expecting. Well, maybe not a 313 batting average, but the power is, he's finally picked it up to the point we were all excited about Jake Burger coming into the season. And, up until July, it was an utter disaster. Now he's just been amazing. 71% rostered is Jake Burger. He could be out there in some shallower leagues. Don't love that the Marlins only have 5 games this upcoming week, but I mean, based on how hot he is, I feel like he has to be close to universally rostered, Jake Burger.
Yeah, at this point, I would say so. And this is my favorite way of framing how hot he is, how hot he's been. So his season batting average, Jake Burger, now is up to 251. For as excited as we were about Jake Burger coming into this year, you know what he hit last year? 250. So he's actually got this year's batting average up higher than last year's now.
And what's interesting about this hot streak is that it hasn't come in the way we were excited about Jake Burger last year. Because remember, we were really excited that he got to Miami, cut the strikeout rate, stopped whiffing nearly as much, traded a little bit of power to do so. And that has not been the thing that he's doing since July 1st. His whiff rate is at like 35% over the past month and a half or so. Entering July, it was right around 28% for the season.
Yeah.
His average exit velocity way up. It's like 96 miles an hour since July 1st. So, look, I'm not complaining about the results. We'll take it. Batting average might continue to be a problem, but if he's going to keep hitting for power like this, then even the strikeouts aren't going to hold him back.
And that's a good point because, obviously we want to keep the podcast moving. There's a lot to talk about. So I want to give a nice pithy take on Jake Burger. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course he needs to be rostered as hot as he is. Am I as excited about him now as I was coming into the season? No, I don't think I'll ever hope for that kind of production from Burger again, but he's too hot to handle right now. So, well, is he too, from a fantasy's perspective, I guess you want to handle him now. I don't know. You get the idea. Start him because he's hot.
I'll give you a couple names that are rostered in more leagues than Jake Burger. Would you drop someone like Brendan Donovan to add him?
Sure.
Yeah, I think so.
What about Jeimer Candelario?
Yeah.
Sure.
What about Willie Castro?
Sure.
Yeah.
Rhys Hoskins?
Sure.
Sure.
All right. So there you go. It's settled. Drop any of those names for Jake Burger if he's available in your league. Before we hit the break, one reminder to sign up for the FBT newsletter if you haven't already. Scan that QR code that will take you right to the website where you click on the FBT logo, you punch in your email address, and it's easy as that. You will get an FBT newsletter delivered right to your email inbox every single weekday. Let's take our first break, and when we return, the news and notes right after this.
At CBS Sports Golazo Network, we're bringing you the game.
Madness of Messi arrives!
Breaking down the game.
This is unlike anything else in the world.
And changing the game.
Get it all for nil.
That means free.
Whoa.
And all day long!
24/7.
Welcome back in. News and notes. This one kind of came out of nowhere. The Giants optioned Camilo Doval to AAA on Friday, one day after giving up 3 earned runs and taking his 5th blown save of the season. The walks have been untenable this year. 5.9 walks per 9, a 14.3% walk rate. And in recent months, since the start of June, Doval had a 6.75 ERA and 4 blown saves. Bob Melvin has named Ryan Walker the team's closer. He actually picked up a save already this weekend on Saturday. And Walker's had a good season. 2.24 ERA, 0.88 whip, 10.6 K per 9. Swinging strike rate is pretty good. He's 36% rostered on CBS. How excited or I guess aggressive are you guys in adding someone like Ryan Walker at this point in the season?
He's the most interesting of the newly emergent closer candidates to add, I would say. And, I hadn't, as somebody who writes the bullpen report at least every other week, I hadn't noticed what kind of year Ryan Walker was having. And it's very interesting watching him pitch. He has the ball, the way his delivery is the ball gets this weird kind of sideways movement on it. It's kind of a unique delivery that creates some wicked movement, and you can understand Ryan Walker putting up the numbers he did. But he went for some massive bids in my 15-team leagues, even with guys like Lucas Urseg out there. Like the one everybody wanted was Ryan Walker, and like somebody spent 40% of their budget on him in one of my 15-teamers. That they were probably the only one with that much left, and they just threw it all at him. So I think there's a lot of buy-in on Ryan Walker right now.
Yeah, I mean, like most weeks, trying to predict Fab is nearly impossible. In my 15-team Tout Wars League, he went for $189 out of a $1,000 budget, so around 19%. And I got him in a different league, in an NFBC league, for $34 out of $1,000. So, yeah, you can't really explain it, but you know that's why you just put the bids in just in case.
Lucky you, yeah. No, he went for over 100 in all of those 15-teamers for me.
So we're across the board on Walker ahead of Justin Martinez from the Diamondbacks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because Bob Melvin did us.
Yeah,
Thank you, Bob Melvin, for actually
named him the closer.
Naming somebody the closer. I think Justin Martinez is the Diamondbacks closer, but I think they could go back to Paul Sewald, who's pitched well lately. And the other thing is, I just think Ryan Walker's better than Justin Martinez.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think, some other names have emerged as well. You mentioned Lucas Urseg and, Calvin Fauché with the Marlins. And I think there's a chance Aroldis Chapman could be taking over for the Pirates too. So there are some closers and some save opportunities emerging here if you are in need of that category.
You're going to get a bullpen report tomorrow. I can tell you that much.
This is probably one of the most important ones of the season, I would say. Joe Ryan went on the IL with a grade 2 right teres major strain, and manager Rocco Baldelli said Ryan's recovery will take, quote, weeks to months. And the Twins later said they could promote pitching prospect Zebby Matthews to take Ryan's place in the rotation. Matthews is 24 years old, having a breakout season in the minors, 2.60 ERA, a .87 whip, 114 strikeouts over 97 innings across 3 different levels in the minors this season. Chris, any interest in stashing someone like Zebby Matthews at this point in the season?
I don't think it's really one you have to get ahead of. Like, if he comes up and pitches well, I wouldn't be surprised, but he hasn't been like dominant at AAA or anything to the point where it makes you think he's going to step into the rotation and be a difference maker. So keep an eye on him. Let's see what he looks like if he gets the chance, but only AL only leagues, I think you would even want to stash him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a little more excited for Zebby Matthews. I don't know that I necessarily disagree that like he's must add in 12 teamers or anything like that, but 4 starts at AAA. Okay, he had a 5.68 ERA in those, but it was the time he spent at high A and AA this year. The ERA was south of 2. The whip was about .75. He's issued 7 walks this year in 97 innings, which is maybe not enough walks. I know you're into saying that, Chris, but there's some real talent here for Zebby Matthews.
Sure.
I think he's jumped up on most all the top 100 lists now.
Mm-hmm. And in general, losing Joe Ryan is obviously just a huge loss for fantasy. I think I had him ranked as a top 20 starting pitcher. So if you lost him, you look at someone like a Spencer Arrighetti, maybe a Paul Blackburn if you're just playing it week to week. But yeah, we'll get into some other waiver wire replacements a little bit later.
How many innings did I say he had, Zebby Matthews? 7 walks in 97 innings.
Yeah, 97.
Is that what I said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Astros manager Joe Espada said Sunday that Kyle Tucker seems to have turned a corner in his recovery and is getting close to running the bases. Kyle Tucker has been out since June 7th with this mysterious shin injury, which we still haven't learned all about, but hopefully he's back before the end of August. Julio Rodriguez was activated from the IL Sunday. He went 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts, which is actually kind of impressive to strike out that many times in one game. Hopefully he's better moving forward.
That's a platinum sombrero, I believe.
I think the platinum is 4, isn't it?
I thought maybe.
Yeah, I think it's 4.
I don't even what is the 5 strikeouts?
Nobody ever came up with a term for it because it never used to happen.
I think a platinum sombrero is 5.
Oh, what's 4 then?
Or the Olympic The 4 is a golden sombrero.
All right.
Oh,
I got
yeah.
it.
5 times is also known as the Olympic rings.
Oh.
Okay.
And 6 is a horn named after Sam Horn of the Baltimore Orioles.
Oh, gosh.
I think 3 is hat trick, and I was thinking 3 was golden sombrero.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
I think I was thinking the same way.
yeah.
But
Okay. I did want to say Julio Rodriguez is limited to playing DH for now, as he recovers from that high ankle sprain.
But I assume we're just getting him back in lineup.
Yeah.
Dave Roberts said Mookie Betts will play right field when he returns Monday against the Brewers. Is that confirmed, by the way, Mookie Betts? I wrote this news item on Friday.
Yeah. I mean, it came from Dave Roberts' mouth, so.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So are you just throwing Betts back in lineup too?
Yeah.
Of course. You're saying is the Monday part confirmed? I thought you meant is the right field part confirmed.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything new about Monday, but I haven't seen anything refuting it either. I do want to mention that Betts playing right field is going to get him outfield eligibility next year, which is actually pretty significant because that's probably where you're most wanting to use him.
Will he have triple eligibility next year?
Did he get enough second base?
Yeah, that I'm not
I'll
sure.
have to check.
Yep. We can look into that one. Ketel Marte exited Saturday with a left ankle contusion. He was out Sunday, but sounds like he avoided serious injury. The team did not send him for X-rays, so hopefully back soon. I think I'd be all right with Ketel Marte in lineups this week. Mike Trout underwent successful surgery to repair a torn meniscus in his left knee. Obviously, second surgery this year for that knee injury, and he should be ready to go for opening day 2025. We hope. CJ Abrams missed all 3 games this weekend due to back spasms. He said he's hoping to return Tuesday against the Orioles. Chris, do you start or sit Abrams this week?
I think I'd start him, but like if I had Zach Neto, someone we've talked a lot about lately, I think I'd be okay starting him over Abrams.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
By the way, Betts is 4 appearances at second base away from gaining it for next year, which could still happen. Like they're putting him in right field because they think that's their best lineup, not because they don't think he can handle the infield anymore. So it could still happen, but he hasn't secured second base yet. Does have shortstop, of course.
Jarren Duran could be suspended after he got caught on a hot mic saying a derogatory term towards a fan. And in case you're wondering, why are we bringing this up? Players have been suspended for this in the past. So we just wanted to put that on your radar in case that happens this week with Jarren Duran. Zach Gallen was removed from Saturday's start due to general body cramps, but he doesn't expect to miss time. Yoshinobu Yamamoto will throw a bullpen Tuesday and then rejoin the Dodgers next weekend to throw live batting practice. He's been out since June 16th with a strained rotator cuff. Grayson Rodriguez, who went on the IL with a right lat strain earlier in the week, will be shut down for 10 days and hopes to be back sometime in September. Max Scherzer, who was placed in the IL with right shoulder fatigue on August 2nd, returned to Texas on Sunday to receive further evaluation. Apparently, his shoulder hasn't responded to extra rest like they had anticipated. And look, it's sad to say, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but it kind of just feels like Max Scherzer's body is giving up on him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It feels like the end of the line.
Yeah. We'll see.
I had the same thought. Yes.
Justin Verlander looked good in his first rehab start on Saturday. 3 innings, 1 run, 3 strikeouts. He built up the pitch count to 52 pitches. Riley Green is expected to begin a rehab assignment Tuesday at AAA. He's on the IL with a right hamstring strain. Lourdes Gurriel left Sunday's game due to left hamstring tightness. Dodgers president Andrew Friedman told reporters he expects Max Muncy and Tommy Edman to be activated during the Dodgers' next homestand, which begins 1 week from today, Monday, August 19th. Nathan Eovaldi was removed early Saturday due to right side tightness. He'll return to Texas to meet with team doctors. I'm guessing we should play it safe. Do not start Nathan Eovaldi this week.
Correct.
Yeah. Alex Cora said Tristan Casas will be activated whenever he feels his timing at the plate is ready. He's currently on a rehab assignment at AAA. Yankees GM Brian Cashman said there is no current lane to call up Jason Dominguez, which is unfortunate because Dominguez got hurt right at the same time that Stanton got hurt, and Alex Verdugo was slumping, so it could have happened then, but just bad timing, I guess, overall for Jason Dominguez. Matt McClain will not begin his rehab assignment, which was scheduled to start on Monday. Not exactly sure what's going on with McClain this time, but he did suffer a stress reaction in his rib cage back in early July. Walker Buehler will return Wednesday against the Brewers. His last start in the minors was a good one. His other 2 outings were poor. Buehler is 76% rostered. I think the expectations are really low, right, on Walker Buehler?
I don't think you can expect anything from him. I think anything you get is a bonus at this point.
Yep. Here's a name we haven't heard in a while. Trevor Story will take batting practice on field Monday. He underwent successful surgery for a fractured left shoulder in mid-April. At the time, the feeling was that he would miss the entire season. Alex Cora now says that he truly believes that Story will make it back before the end of the season. Will he have fantasy value? I don't know, but a name to put on your radar, I guess, in deeper leagues. And perhaps the biggest weekend update is Richard Lovelady, who allowed an earned run on Friday, which brought his ERA up to 7.20 on the season.
Oh man,
I thought that was pretty good on Friday. You guys
double razzing of Chris there.
Talking about Richard Lovelady. That was good.
It was important news, okay? And I want to make sure that everybody got the news that they wanted.
Like, yeah, roster transaction. We got to talk about it.
I was so hoping he got a save this weekend.
Yeah, that would have been great. I saw
vindication for me.
someone
really.
tweeted at us over the weekend, is Richard Lovelady a must add? And in my mind, I'm just like, why is this person asking me about Richard Lovelady? And then I found out why. Players who went to the IL this weekend: Austin Hayes with a left hamstring strain, Brooks Lee with right biceps tendonitis, River Ryan with right forearm tightness. He left to start early on Saturday. Hunter Harvey with mid-back tightness, and Wencel Perez with a left oblique strain. Sounds like he could be out for the rest of the season. Some prospect notes I want to mention.
Should we get into the Hunter Harvey thing now with the mid-back tightness? Because we did mention Lucas Erceg. So
Yeah.
I was pretty hopeful, and I think Chris was too, that Hunter Harvey, he had gotten the last save for the Royals, and it seems like they had been phasing James MacArthur out and ready to elevate Harvey to that role. But now that he's on the IL, I don't think they go back to MacArthur, who hasn't been very good.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's got to be Lucas Erceg, and Erceg's been good enough himself, and obviously throws very hard. He might end up, bumping Harvey, eliminating Harvey's chance here.
And he got the save on Saturday that the Royals did not play on Sunday, right? That was weird. It wasn't rained out. They just didn't have a game scheduled.
The 2 Chicago teams didn't play, and the 2 Missouri teams didn't play. I think it has to do with the interleague schedule. You get to play your natural rival more times, but you have to have a 2-game series in there somewhere to make it work. It's something like that.
All right, sure. I just thought that was weird that they didn't play on a Sunday instead of a Thursday or a Monday. But yeah, no, I would think I would probably prioritize Ryan Walker and Justin Martinez ahead of Lucas Erceg. But I think if you need a closer like Erceg versus Calvin Fauché, who's only, I think, 8% rostered, I think it's fine to go with Erceg given that he's on a much better team.
Yep, 100%. Erceg's numbers much better than James MacArthur this season, and he's only 14% rostered. So, like we said earlier, this is a big weekend. If you need saves, if you're desperate, there are lots of names to go after. I wanted to mention a few prospect notes. The Red Sox are promoting 3 of their top prospects to AAA, including Roman Anthony, Marcelo Mayer, and Kyle Teal. All 3 names that we could see at some point next season. And the Nationals are promoting Andres Chaparro, who is having a big year in the minors, 328 batting average with 23 home runs, 85 RBI, a 977 OPS. He's also 25 years old. Scott, does this matter at all, Andres Chaparro?
I mean, the Nationals are one of those teams that could probably find opportunities for him, though Juan Yepez has obviously hit well at first base. They just called up Jose Tana at third base, and I think has more long-term appeal than Chaparro. Maybe they could DH him. I don't know. In most organizations, I feel like Andres Chaparro would be an organizational depth piece, but he's been a good enough producer in the minors that if he is able to find his way into at bats, it wouldn't be a huge shock if he made an impact.
All right, let's fire up the drop-o-meter before we get into some more waiver wire options. Garrett Crochet, Is it over for Garrett Crochet, who got clobbered by the Cubs this weekend? 2 1/3 innings, 9 hits, 7 earned runs. He allowed 4 homers in that start. He still did have 15 whiffs on 67 pitches, but he gave up some hard contact, obviously gave up those home runs. And I saw this came out after the start via Vinny Duber on Twitter. Garrett Crochet said he's been experiencing a mechanical issue for the last 3 or 4 weeks and cited it as the cause of his struggles tonight. He said he's tried to convince himself it was something else each time, but now has identified it as, quote, a simple fix. I'm not so sure. I've been hearing things like this for the past month or so regarding Garrett Crochet, who now has a 6.98 ERA and a 181 whip over his last 6 starts. Drop-o-meter. I don't know if we're there yet. 91% rostered. Where do you put Garrett Crochet 1 to 10?
I mean, we're absolutely at the point where you have to discuss it. Whether it's, is he a 10? Is he a 1? I think he's neither one of those. I think he's somewhere in the middle. I lean towards like a 6 or a 7 at this point because it just, while I wouldn't be surprised if he figured some small thing out and went on a huge run, I think the problem is you're still looking at a very slim margin for error every time he goes out, where if he pitches really well, he absolutely could go 6 innings. Maybe 7 if he's really efficient. But I don't think we're going to see a lot of 95 pitch outings from Garrett Crochet. I think they're going to have to be, really safe with him. And because of that, it just means that even if he pitches well for 4 innings, but has a couple of long at bats, he's probably just out. And so I don't want to drop him. I think he's more rosterable in weirdly head-to-head, he's more valuable in a roto league than a head-to-head points league, even though head-to-head points league should be his more valuable format because he's RP eligible. But I think we're at the point where we were with Jordan Hicks after his really good start, where even if he gets back on track, he's not going to get a lot of quality starts. He's certainly not going to get many wins. And so I could see him being really helpful in ratios. I can see him being helpful in strikeouts. But that probably matters more for a roto league than a points league at this point.
Right. You really need the win in points leagues. And that's, even if he can go the minimum for a win, which he hasn't done since June, he's got the White Sox backing him.
He still needs his team to score runs.
Right. And now he's just not pitching well. And maybe it is the mechanical thing. I saw he was having trouble locating glove side, and that's what he blamed it on. If you want some more of the commentary on it afterward. Look, you can still find reasons for optimism. So the White Sox have changed managers since the last time Crochet had pitched. Grady Sizemore is the new manager, and he said, if I could find the exact quote here, Grady Sizemore said, every game we are going to take it a little different in terms of managing Crochet's workload. So even though it looks like they're consistently limiting to 4 innings, every game they're going to take it different. And you do wonder if it would have already gone differently if he hadn't been so bad his last 3 starts. But as somebody who's generally tried to take a rose-colored glasses view of this Crochet situation, I think I'm at about a 7.2. A 7 also, meaning not a 7.2. A 7 also on the drop-o-meter. In that, I saw him dropped in a 15-team league, and I put in a bid for him. But I myself was putting in bids while dropping Crochet in my 12-team leagues. So that's kind of where I'm at with him. Here's the biggest thing to me that we haven't even mentioned it yet. His ERA with these 3 bad starts, the especially bad one this weekend, 3.65 is what it's up to now on the year. This is not a very good ERA. The White Sox didn't move him at the trade deadline because of how far into his service time he is. He's not going to be with them when they're ready to compete again. I feel like their number one goal as an organization for the rest of this season is to preserve Garrett Crochet's value so that they could trade him for a haul. And if he keeps having stinkers like this, that's going to really diminish his value. And so, if they're thinking like I am that should be their number one goal, then they got to pull the plug. Like, they
would think
can't
so,
afford to
yeah.
let him lose more value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's all fair. Garrett Crochet still 91% rostered on CBS. He's 49% started. If you do keep him on your team, I don't think there's any way you could start him this week. He's at the Houston Astros. That's a really tough matchup. So, I would get away from Garrett Crochet this week and maybe even drop him. Would you drop him for Spencer Arrighetti?
I think so.
Yep.
Would you drop him for, if you're just thinking about matchups this week, Paul Blackburn?
If I really need a win this week, yeah.
Yep, I think that's fair. Let's talk about Hayden Birdsong, who has had two rough outings in a row. He was up against the Tigers on Sunday, 4 1/3 innings, 5 runs allowed. He gave up 2 homers in this one. He's been hit hard over his last 2 starts, 12 earned runs, 4 homers allowed. He had those 2 amazing starts. They also both came against the Colorado Rockies. So Birdsong is 67% rostered. Where is he on the drop-o-meter?
Probably, I'd put him a little higher than Crochet,
Yeah, it's just
actually.
8.
Yeah, 8.
Okay, so you're comfortable dropping him for either of the names I just mentioned?
Oh, yeah.
I still like Birdsong's future. He's capable of getting a lot of whiffs on his secondary pitches. It looked like all of them played down in this start, which was his problem. It wasn't so much the walks. But even for not walking guys, Hayden Birdsong still had trouble throwing strikes, and that's always going to impede him. 60% strikes in this start. So I just think there's upside here, but he's not as reliable as he needs to be for 12-team leagues right now.
All right, again, that was Hayden Birdsong. Let's take our final break, and when we return, we'll talk about some waiver wire options from the weekend. We'll do that right after this.
There are some things in life that you can't quite explain.
An extraordinary story.
Maybe it sounds flawless, looks effortless, or makes you feel like a part of history.
The first ever goal for BFC.
And when all of those phenomenons come together, it's perfect. Pitch perfect.
Welcome back in. Let's talk waiver wire pitchers, part 1. And these are mostly names in shallower leagues that could be out there. Michael Wacha, another quality start. This one up against the Cardinals, 7 innings, 2 runs with 6 strikeouts. He had 15 whiffs on 92 pitches. Gavin Williams, another solid start for him, this time at the Twins, 6 innings, 1 run with 3 strikeouts. Jeffrey Springs had his best start yet, up against the Orioles, 5 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts, 19 whiffs on 83 pitches. And Tobias Myers was awesome up against the Reds. He went 7 1/3 shutout innings with 9 strikeouts. He had 12 whiffs on 99 pitches. And Scott, how would you rank that group of 4? Tobias Myers, Jeffrey Springs, Gavin Williams, and Michael Wacha.
I think Springs is the clear number 1.
Mm-hmm.
He finally had the start we stashed him for, and it was really his changeup. Felt like Gerrit Cole slider came back. We finally got Jeffrey Springs' changeup in this one. That is his wipeout pitch. Hitters had gone 7 for 14 against it in his first 2 starts, but in this one, it got 10 whiffs on 16 throws, I believe it was. Or am I mixing up my numbers? 10 whiffs on 15 swings. So, yeah, it had a 67% whiff rate. Clearly back to form. His fastball was still down about 1.5 miles from last year, so he hasn't quite regained that velocity, but he showed in this start against the Orioles of all lineups that he can do a lot of damage just with that changeup. So I'm very encouraged by that for Springs. He's clearly number 1. Number 2, I'll say Michael Wacha for reliability reasons. Then I prefer the upside of Gavin Williams to Tobias Myers, though I'm,
Interesting.
Yeah.
I know you like Myers.
I do.
I think one thing that really hurts, he's got the Dodgers this week. And so there are 6 weeks left in the season, 7 weeks left in the fantasy season.
Yeah.
You can't use the guy for the next one. That really does have to play into your thought process when you're making your waiver wire ads now.
Yeah.
I guess Tobias Myers, if we say, do I like him relative to the 2.79 ERA and 1.08 WHIP he has? No, I don't feel like he's that good, but I don't think anybody is assessing Tobias Myers like he has a 2.79 ERA and 1.08 WHIP, and I think he's a legitimate asset in fantasy, but I would still give Gavin Williams the edge over him.
Would you guys drop Crochet or Birdsong for any of those names?
I would drop them for all of those names.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, look, if, like I said, if you're not using someone right now, like if you're in a head-to-head points league and you don't have to use someone this week and you're like not locked into a playoff spot, they're droppable. And I don't think you can use Garrett Crochet or Hayden Birdsong right now. And I'd feel better about starting any of these guys in their next starts. You know, Myers against the Dodgers, maybe not, but
yeah,
I still think I would go for those moves. Yes.
The only one that's a slam dunk is Springs. I think Birdsong and Crochet are about as rosterable as Waka, Williams, and Myers. So it just depends. Do you want to hold out for upside, or do you need some kind of usefulness now?
Mm-hmm.
All right, waiver wire pitchers part 2. JP Sears, a quality start at the Blue Jays, 7 innings, 3 runs with 4 strikeouts. Jose Soriano, also a quality start at the Nationals, 6 innings, 1 run with 7 strikeouts. Simeon Woods Richardson, a strong start up against the Guardians, 7 innings, 2 runs with 7 strikeouts. And Ryan Nelson, I'm not really sure how to explain it, but he continues to pitch well. This time he did it against the Phillies, who I know they've been slumping, but they're still a really good lineup. 7 1/3 innings, 2 runs allowed, 9 strikeouts there. Chris, how would you rank Ryan Nelson, Simeon Woods Richardson, Jose Soriano, and JP Sears?
I think Soriano is clear number 1 for me. I think the skill set is stronger there. Ground ball rate. He's one of those guys where, like, in some ways, he's like a mirror image of Framber Valdez, mostly just because he's a righty and Framber Valdez is a lefty, but also just because elite ground ball pitcher who has one really, really good swing and miss pitch. And Soriano hasn't figured out a way to lean on that curveball in the same way that Framber Valdez certainly is lately. But even when he doesn't, I think the results are going to be good enough, right? Like you see the 381 FIP. It's a little higher than the 336 ERA, but I think it's reasonable to expect that moving forward. After that, I think it probably just depends on what the next matchup is for all of these guys. Ryan Nelson gets the Rockies in Arizona, so I'd probably go with him. And I saw some good discussions about Ryan Nelson and the way he's changed his approach over his past 6 starts, where he's throwing his four-seamer up in the zone a lot more consistently. He's throwing it harder as well. I think the overall profile is still pretty middling, right? Like, he has 5 or 6 pitches. None of them have a whiff rate over 20.5%. So I think there's not a ton to love there, and it's probably just a streamer in the long run, but I think that's also the same with Sears and Woods Richardson. I think Soriano is probably the only one who's north of a streamer.
I will point out, I've noticed this with Ryan Nelson, and it kind of piggybacks what you said about the fastball. 5 of his last 7 starts have been good. In the 5 that were good, he threw his fastball more than 60% of the time. So when he really leans on that fastball, which is his only good pitch, it seems like, of the 5 he has, things seem to go well for Ryan Nelson. I don't know how long it'll last, but it's been going well so far. And I just want to throw in for Jose Soriano, who I'm glad is finally getting some attention here. Last 5 starts, 4 of them are quality starts with 1 earned run or fewer. So he's been, I don't know that he's gotten a lot of wins during that stretch, but he's been pitching really reliably.
Waiver wire pitchers part 3. Mitchell Parker has turned in 3 solid starts in a row after a rough stretch. He was up against the Angels, 6 1/3, 2 unearned runs with 5 strikeouts. Cody Bradford, that's right, Chris, your Cody Bradford pitched well at the Yankees. 5 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts with 11 whiffs on 92 pitches. Edward Cabrera had a great start up against the Padres, 7 shutout innings with 4 strikeouts. And Yariel Rodriguez had a solid start up against Oakland, 5 2/3, 1 run, 5 strikeouts here. We're getting a little bit into deeper leagues here, but Scott, any interest in those names? Mitchell Parker, Bradford, Cabrera, and Rodriguez.
Give it to Chris, because this sounds like all guys he's fond of.
All right, Chris, what do you think?
I don't think any of these guys are must roster. I think there might even be one guy in the next group, maybe 2, who I like more than any of them. But Like Yari Rodriguez, I'm excited to draft him as a sleeper next year, but I just don't think the workload is going to be there. Has he gone 6 innings at all in any start this season?
Actually, he did a couple starts in a row, I want to say.
But he's like, I think 85 pitches is about as many as he's thrown in any given start. So like he has to be super efficient. It's kind of similar to Garrett Crochet. I do think like outside of the one disaster start that got him sent down before the trade deadline, Rodriguez has been very good since coming back. So I think he's a very talented pitcher. It's just, I think his utility is fairly limited against the wrong matchups.
So it's a 3.38 ERA and 8 starts since returning, but the first one was really awful. So if we throw that out,
well, yeah, and he had the one where he only went like 2/3 of an inning against Baltimore.
2.43 ERA and 7 starts for Yariel Rodriguez. Back-to-back 6 inning starts at the start of July, but yeah, his season high is 85 pitches, like you said.
I think he's the most interesting of this group. Like Mitchell Parker's got the Phillies in his next start. There's no way I can go with him. Would rather not start Cody Bradford against the Twins. So
he's your guy, Chris. What are you doing?
I think Rodriguez is fine. Probably the most immediately useful and has some long-term appeal.
And the last group includes Martin Perez, who had a strong start at the Marlins, 7 innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts. Osvaldo Bido, who pitches for Oakland. He was at the Blue Jays this weekend, 6 shutout innings with 5 strikeouts. Nick Martinez threw a gem at the Brewers, 7 shutout innings, just 1 hit with 7 strikeouts. He's improved his control dramatically this year. I don't really know how to explain it, but I think that's been a big key for Nick Martinez. And Albert Suarez pitched well at Tampa Bay on Sunday, 6 2/3 shutout innings with 5 strikeouts. Again, Scott, kind of deep league names here, but anyone stand out between Suarez, Martinez, Bido, and Martin Perez?
I don't think I really want to roster any of them if I can avoid it, but I do have interesting observations on some of them. Martin Perez, for the second straight start since joining the Padres, threw more changeups and curveballs and had another good outing doing that. So I don't know, maybe something could come from that for Martin Perez. Not ready to buy in yet. You mentioned Nick Martinez dramatically improved control. You look at the 3.16 ERA and think, well, that's obviously too good to be true, but he has a 2.99 FIP and a 2.90 xERA. Not like he's missing a ton of bats, so I remain skeptical, but it's noteworthy. And then Albert Suarez, I'm reluctant to buy into him again because that ended so poorly the first time around. But two really good starts in a row after joining the rotation, and anybody who can provide decent innings with the Orioles lineup backing him is got to be of some interest in fantasy.
Let's slide over to some waiver wire hitters. We already spoke about Jake Berger. Jorge Soler had a huge weekend in Coors Field, 7 hits, 4 homers, 9 RBI, and he's now up to 16 home runs. He's had some stretches where, you think it's all right. Jorge Soler is about to get going, right? But then, he has some big games, but it hasn't been sustainable so far this season. 71% rostered is Soler. Chris, do you think that needs to be higher? Is Soler a must-roster player, or did he just have a great series in Coors Field?
I mean, he had a great series in Coors Field. I don't think he's a top 36 outfielder in a points league. So when you say must-roster, that would be the toughest league to get him in the lineup for every week. So I think 71% rostered. If you want to add him and play the hot hand, that's fine. But we also know who Jorge Soler is. And it's always been an inconsistent player who's better in roto than points. So I think it's fine to leave him out there, and if you haven't added him yet.
But when he's going well,
sure, yeah, it's like Jake Berger.
Do it for a long time. So I think I'm buying it. I don't know if he'd quite crack my top 36 outfielders rest of the season, but he wouldn't miss by much. I'm definitely moving him up after this 4-homer weekend he just had. And I've watched him play for some of it. It didn't feel like a Coors Field fueled weekend, I will say.
Any of these names of interest in 5 outfielder leagues? Matt Wallner has hit well since returning to the Twins. He had a 3-run homer on Friday, and in 22 games since returning, a 343 batting average with 6 homers and OPS over 1,000. Jake McCarthy has been racking up hits recently for the D-backs. 2 for 4 with 2 homers on Saturday, 3 for 4 with 4 RBI on Sunday. His last 15, he's batting over 400 with 3 home runs and 3 steals. And Andrew Benintendi, I don't know, he's on some kind of power binge. I don't know that we're buying into this, but 2 for 4 with 2 home runs on Friday, and he has 5 home runs in all of August so far. Scott, buying in on any of these in 5 outfielder leagues? Benintendi, McCarthy, and Matt Wallner.
I don't think so. I mean, what we want from McCarthy is stolen bases, and he's not really giving much of that. Not quite playing every day either. And I have no idea what to make of this power surge for Benintendi. It just seems like a total fluke of nature to me.
Yeah, the Jake McCarthy thing, he has started 9 games in a row. And it looks like 14 of the past 15. So he is playing.
Probably more, yeah.
He's racking up hits, a little bit of power, a little bit of speed so far. And I noticed his splits against lefties this year. He's actually hit really well, over 300 against left-handed pitching. So I think he should play every day. You know, I picked him up he was out there in a 15-team, 5 outfielder league. Obviously, yeah, I think that makes sense. Even in 12-team, 5 outfielder leagues, I think you could add Jake McCarthy.
You could if you really need like a hot hand. I don't think it's going to last because I don't see him being big batting average guy.
Yep.
And we're not interested in Matt Wallner at all.
Look, if you need power in
that's all he's going to do.
Hot hand. Outfielder league, I think it's fine. The problem is he is actually not going to play against lefties.
No.
And the Twins have 3 lefties on the schedule this week. So
yeah, that's tough. But I mean, we are talking about a guy who, what's he played, like 118 games since the start of last season, and he's hit 28 home runs. Like the production's been very good. The underlying power's really impressive. 111 games, 22 home runs. Like I think he's a legitimate source of power. His OPS is over 1,000 for the season. But yeah, if he doesn't play against lefties, and since they have 3 on the schedule this week, I think it's fairly easy to dismiss.
Yeah. What's crazy too is that his strikeout rate is almost 40%.
It's much better since he got recalled, but it's still like 34%, I think.
I just don't want to go get over the moon on Matt Wallner because he surged to the finish line last year, and there was a lot of praise for him coming in, and then he started like 1 for 31 or something and got sent down. And I don't like he clearly has a lot of power, but I don't think he's like in the long run a starting caliber bat in the majors is my official take on Matt Wallner.
2 names in 2 catcher leagues. The D-backs promoted catcher Adrian Del Castillo to fill in for Gabriel Moreno, who is currently on the IL with a left adductor strain. And Castillo had a big weekend, 3 for 4 with his first career home run on Friday, added 3 more hits with 2 RBI on Sunday. 24 years old, having a breakout season in the minors, 319 batting average, 24 home runs. And Joey Bart hit 2 more home runs this weekend with the Pirates. He's been their primary catcher. The strikeout rate is down this year. Chris, if you had to choose one of these names in like deeper 2 catcher leagues, who do you like more, Bart or Adrian Del Castillo?
I would take the flyer on Del Castillo, who had a huge season at AAA. We talked about it when he got called up. 1,000 plus OPS. Like, yes, it's the PCL, but I think his OPS was like 150 points higher than any other catcher in the PCL before getting promoted. So that doesn't explain it. And the fact that he's been productive in very limited playing time so far, I think it's worth taking a flyer on in any 2 catcher league, 10, 12 team. Like, there just aren't enough impactful catchers that I'm willing to overlook Adrian Del Castillo.
And one other name in deeper leagues, the Astros called up prospect Zach DeZenzo last week, and he's done some things so far, 2 for 4 with his first career home run on Saturday. He's started 5 straight games since being called up. He had a solid year in the minors. He, only limited to only 38 games, but he hit well last year. 13% rostered. Scott, any interest in Zach DeZenzo in deeper leagues?
Yeah, quite a bit of interest. I think he's just going to be their primary first baseman now, and I think he has skills. And I was surprised. I picked him up for a modest bid in all 3 of my 15 teamers, and in 2 of them, nobody else even bid on him. I was very surprised about that.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's keep things moving, and we'll do some quick starter sit these fringy pitchers this week. And Jose Barrios bounced back with a great start up against Oakland. 7 innings, 1 run with 8 strikeouts. He is at the Angels this week. What do you think on Jose Barrios?
Who knows, man? Like, does anyone know why Jose Barrios does well when he does well or doesn't do well when he doesn't do well? Like, his pitch mix is always almost identical, and the velocity doesn't really, and it's just sometimes he's amazing and sometimes he's terrible. And he's been really good in 2 of his last 3 starts. And so if you want to ride the hot hand against a good matchup with the Angels, I think that's fine. But like, I don't know how you can have any confidence one way or the other about Jose Barrios at this point.
Robbie Ray turned in his first quality start of the season up against the Tigers. 6 innings, 2 runs with 7 strikeouts. Notice the velocity was down quite a bit, basically where it was at before Tommy John surgery. So maybe he was just amped up for his first couple of starts. He is home against the Braves this week. Scott, what do you think about Robbie Ray?
I think it's fine if you want to use them for that. The Braves their offense did get hot over the weekend in Coors Field, so I don't know if it'll carry over. They were very, very cold before that. As for the diminished velocity, I noticed it as well. But, 3 of his 4 starts since returning from the IL have been good, have been promising, including this one. So I don't want to make too much of it yet.
Mm-hmm. Max Fried has not been very good in 2 starts since coming back from the IL. This one in Coors Field, so perhaps we give him a pass. But the walks have been a problem. He's given up 9 earned runs over 8 1/3 innings since returning from the IL. Max Fried at the Giants this week, who are actually really good against left-handed pitching. Chris, what do you do with Max Fried?
I lean towards sitting him, just because we haven't seen it from him coming back from the forearm issue. But I also I don't really take anything away from this start at Coors Field either. Like, he didn't get hit hard. I think he just got Babbitt to death. And I don't know. I would like to have seen a good start from him before getting him back in my lineup. But if you have to start him this week, I wouldn't be surprised if he had a good outing. I don't think my confidence in Max Fried is totally shaken. I would just like to see something from him.
The movement on all of his secondary pitches, his mini secondary pitches, was all way off.
Yeah,
which you'd kind of expect at Coors Field.
Yeah, that's the problem with Coors Field. Like, Spencer Schwallenbach had a really good start this week, and I think that's good. Like, you would rather a player have a good start at Coors Field, but just from an analysis perspective, I don't think you can take anything away from Coors Field one way or the other from pitchers.
Mm-hmm. Christopher Sanchez got crushed at the D-backs on Sunday. 4 2/3 innings, 12 hits, 7 earned runs. Still did have 13 whiffs on 96 pitches, but he's given up 6+ earned runs in 2 of his last 3 starts and 3 of his last 7. And he's home against the Nationals this week, which is actually a good matchup. Scott, what do we do with Christopher Sanchez?
I am rapidly losing faith in Christopher Sanchez. He's gotten bombed a few times, as you pointed out. And even the good starts, the strikeouts have been very lacking. I'd rather try somebody else against the Nationals. I think you can live with it, with starting Sanchez with that matchup, but I'd like to aim for higher.
Chris Bassett got crushed by the Oakland A's. 4 innings, 7 runs allowed. He gave up 2 homers in this one. And his last 6 starts, it's a 7.12 ERA, a 1.64 whip. He is at the Cubs this week. Chris, what are you doing with Bassett?
So I'm looking at one lineup right now where I have Chris Bassett, and the problem is I've got Shane Baz versus Houston, Nestor Cortez. Well, he gets the White Sox. That might be the option. Or Cutter Crawford versus Texas and Baltimore.
Oof.
I don't love any of those guys. I think I'm going to go with Cortez with the best matchup, but that kind of tells you where Chris Bassett is right now, where it's another one where I don't have a good explanation for why he struggles when he does and why he does well when he doesn't. I think it's just there's almost no margin for error for a guy that throws this soft. And when things aren't perfect, he's going to have a tendency to get bombed. But I still generally view him as a starting caliber pitcher moving forward.
And
I'd be more likely to drop Bassett than start him. If we're talking 12-team, I want to drop him in a 15-teamer, but 12-team league, I mean, that last start was good, but other than that, it's been a total. He's just crushing you right now, and I'm not sure the upside is worth it.
Yep. And Spencer Schwellenbach pitched well in Coors Field. 6 innings, 2 runs with 7 strikeouts, had 17 whiffs on 96 pitches, has a quality start in 5 of his past 6, has 7+ strikeouts in 4 straight. Only 60% started on CBS and at the Angels this week. I think we're all good with starting Schwellenbach, right?
He's the best. Best
absolutely.
Spencer since Strider.
All right, let's move on to some hitters. Do we have a name for this group of rookie Jacksons? Because it kind of feels like we should have a name, right? Like
the Jackson 3. That's what Chris threw out
Jackson 3,
last week.
That makes sense. Yeah, I asked on Twitter, I would love a way to get to the Jackson 5. Like if Jackson Job gets called.
Yeah, there's a 4th, but we need a.
I did see this was the first year in a long time.
I think it's baseball history.
Yeah, first year in baseball history where the first name Jacksons outnumber the last name Jacksons.
Wow.
All right, Braves reliever Jackson Stevens, who has thrown 3 1/3 innings this season. That's your Jackson.
Somebody threw out, I think, Jackson Rutledge getting called up. I think he's in the national system or something like that. Twitter actually threw, I thought, some pretty good ones. The Jackson Hive, Action Jacksons, the Jackson Thrive. Not bad.
Yeah, we're sticking with Jackson 3.
All right, fair enough. Well, let's talk about what they did this weekend. Jackson Merrill kept his hot streak going, 3 for 4 with a sock and 2 shoes on Friday. Hit another clutch home run on Saturday. His last 19 games, 366 with 5 home runs, 3 steals, and OPS over 1,000. Jackson Holiday hit another home run on Saturday. That was 4 home runs in a 6-game stretch. And since being called up, he's batting .250 with 5 home runs, 12 RBI, and a .968 OPS. Jackson Churio actually went hitless this weekend, but you guys have talked about it. Post All-Star break, .358, 5 home runs, 6 steals, a .968 OPS for Churio. Anything else you guys would like to add? I know you spent a lot of time on them last week, though.
I can't imagine sitting any of them right now, and maybe not for the next 15 years.
I hope that's the case. How much are you buying in on these hot stretches from 2 other young hitters? Zach Neto continues his torrid run, 3 for 5 with a sock and a shoe on Saturday. He is now up to 17 homers and 21 steals. 10 games in August, he's batting .342, 4 home runs, 14 RBI, 2 steals, a .1246 OPS. And Colton Cowser continues to hit well since the All-Star break. 1 for 5 with his 18th home run on Friday. He added 3 more hits on Saturday. And in the second half, which includes 23 games, Cowser is batting .337 with 6 homers, 21 runs, 20 RBI, 2 steals, and a .968 OPS. He has played every single game in the second half. How much are you guys buying in? Zach Neto and Colton Cowser.
So all of a sudden, Neto is a top 40 player in Roto overall.
Yep.
And I think he's the number 10 shortstop for the season in fantasy points total. I don't know. Like, I don't know how much I even want to be skeptical of it. Like, none of it really looks unsustainable, which is part of what's a little confusing, right? Like, are we sure a guy hitting .264 on a bad team is a top 40 player? I know the 17 homers and 21 steals, that's good, but it's not like, is that really overcoming it? I know all of a sudden he's on like close to a 90 RBI. Well, he's on close to a 90 RBI pace. I think he had
85
like 11.
is what it says. 85.
Yeah, he had 11 in that series against the Yankees, I think, right?
And 74 runs.
Yeah.
So that's holding him back, I would say, among the top 40. So you just wonder how much stolen bases, if stolen bases are maybe getting weighed too much in there. I don't know. But anyway, continue.
But I think I'm not going to rank him as a top 12 starting shortstop. We talked about this last week where there are a handful of guys. Mookie Betts is one of them. There are a handful of guys who are ranked below him, but we rank above him. But on the whole, I don't see a lot to be skeptical of with Zach Neto. So I think he's in the 15-ish range at shortstop.
You know, on Friday's show, when we looked up shortstops since May 1st, and I saw Zach Neto is 6th in fantasy points since May 1st. I think that radicalized me. I think I'm a true Zach Neto believer.
Good. Love to hear it. Hop
Does that mean top 12 or?
Well, maybe. I'll try to get him in the top 12.
Okay.
It'll be behind Mookie Betts, obviously.
Yeah.
And probably behind the 2 Jacksons, but maybe we need to kick Ha-Sung Kim out of there or something. I don't know.
Okay. Colton Cowser, I will just point out again, he's playing every day. He's actually been okay against lefties. I know he's been streaky, but I'm pretty much back in on Colton Cowser being a top 40 outfielder, must roster type player rest of the season. 3 pitchers who made their returns this weekend. Tanner Bybee returned from that shoulder issue with a solid start at the Twins. 5 2/3 innings, 1 run with 5 strikeouts. He had 13 whiffs on 84 pitches. 2 other names that we were waiting much longer to return. Merrill Kelly, solid start up against the Phillies, 5 innings, 2 runs with 2 strikeouts. And DL Hall, who returns to the Brewers. He wasn't very good. 4 2/3 innings, 3 runs. He did have 9 strikeouts. Just wanted to point out the velocity was way up on all of his pitches, like over 2 miles per hour.
That's what we saw in his minor league rehab assignment as well.
Yep. Anything you guys would like to add on Bybee, Merrill Kelly, and DL Hall?
We may have overlooked how good Bybee's been for a long time now. Last 15 starts, 2.69 ERA, 102 WHIP, 9.6 K per 9. The starts tend to be a little on the shorter side, which works against him, but it's pretty close to must start, I'd say, Tanner Bybee. Merrill Kelly, the control was a little off, the velocity a little down, but neither enough that I'd consider it a red flag. I think Merrill Kelly, you're going to want on your roster down the stretch. And we'll keep an eye on this DL Hall thing. I think strike throwing is a bigger issue than velocity for him, but you don't mind extra velocity.
Let's get into some other leftovers. Part 1, Zach Eflin got his revenge at the Rays. 7 shutout innings with 7 strikeouts. Bryce Miller, a strong start up against the Mets. 6 shutout innings with 6 strikeouts. And Bailey Ober continues his great run, this time against the Guardians. 6 shutout innings with 9 strikeouts. Last 9 starts for Ober, 1.76 ERA, 0.73 WHIP, 10.6 K per 9, 16.8% swinging strike rate. He's been amazing. Chris, anything? Go ahead.
Sorry, if you eliminate just that first start for Bailey Ober, where he got bombed, his first start of the season, he has a 2.98 ERA and 0.90 WHIP overall.
Yep. Yeah, it took him a little while to figure it out. Like his fastball was really bad early on, but once he figured that out, he really took off. So I think he's a must-start pitcher. Like Eflin, this is kind of exactly what I thought would happen when he got traded to the Orioles, where he's pitched a little better. Like his whiff rate on his curveball is way up since he got there, even though his usage isn't materially different. But it's such a better situation that even if he wasn't a significantly better pitcher, I would feel better about starting him anyway. So that's where we're at on him. And then like Bryce Miller, he's going to tinker and maybe figure something out here, because he now throws 7 different pitches. Doesn't throw them very often, but it's a very wide arsenal. Some of the pitches have shown real swing and miss potential, the knuckle curve especially. And it's all just about finding the best way to supplement that really, really good fastball and find some consistency when it's not working. And I don't know if we're there yet. I know he's been very good lately, but this is a guy who has had hot stretches followed up by really, really bad stretches. So I'm not ready to buy in completely, but I think you're probably just leaving Bryce Miller in your starting lineup. The whip is always going to be great, and you just hope the blowouts are less hurtful than they have been at times.
Pitching leftovers, part 2, Logan Webb back on track over his last 3 starts. This one up against the Tigers. 7 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts, 17 whiffs on 110 pitches. Justin Steele, a great start at the White Sox. 6 innings, 1 unearned run with 8 strikeouts. And Logan Gilbert was great up against the Mets. 7 shutout with 6 strikeouts. Scott, anything to add on Gilbert, Steele, and Logan Webb?
Webb's changeup was awesome for a 3rd straight start.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, maybe the best it's been yet. So he seems to be trending a good direction. Not that he was so bad before then.
And pitching leftovers, part 3, Hunter Brown, a strong start at the Red Sox. 5 1/3 innings, 2 runs, 9 strikeouts. Had 16 whiffs, and his velocity was way up across the board. Tyler Glasnow, a quality start up against the Pirates. 7 innings, 2 runs with 4 strikeouts. And Luis Castillo, a great start up against the Mets on Sunday Night Baseball. 6 innings, 1 run with 9 strikeouts. Chris, anything on Castillo, Glasnow, and Hunter Brown?
No, my only comment is just I feel like Hunter Brown and Mitch Keller are like the same guy. I don't know if that's fair or reasonable, but that's my mental model for both of them moving forward. I think there are going to be some bumps in the road, but on the whole, you're going to be happy that you have him around.
Mm-hmm. I think there's probably more strikeout upside with Hunter Brown, but I think it's fair. Yeah,
Not significantly more though. Maybe like 1K per 9 more.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Some hitting leftovers. Wilson Contreras had a big game on Friday, 3 for 4 with 2 homers and 4 RBI since returning from the IL. 247 batting average with 9 home runs and an 814 OPS. Yordan Alvarez picking the power back up, 3 home runs over the weekend, 5 home runs over his last 5 games. Matt Olson showing some signs of coming around, 2 for 4 with 2 home runs on Saturday. Over his last 18 games, he's batting .284 with 7 homers. Teoscar Hernandez has been awesome in the second half. He hit a home run off Paul Skeens on Saturday. And in the second half, .329 batting average, 7 home runs, an OPS over 1,000. Just another normal weekend for Aaron Judge, who went 3 for 3 with a sock and a shoe on Sunday. He also added 3 hits across the doubleheader on Saturday. Jazz Chisholm also had himself a big weekend, had 2 homers and a steal across the doubleheader, added another steal on Sunday. Alex Bregman has had a big weekend, 7 hits, 2 homers, and over his last 31 games, batting .299 with 8 home runs. Juan Soto, 2 for 5 with 2 homers on Sunday. And Cal Raleigh, a huge game on Sunday Night Baseball, 3 for 4 with 2 home runs, 5 RBI. And he leads all catchers with 26 homers. And he's second at the position with 76 RBI. Lots of names, lots of stats. Anything you guys would like to add?
So for Aaron Judge, I gave you Bailey Ober's numbers since May 1st just a minute ago. No, I didn't. I did it from his first start. Okay, scratch that. Scratch the Bailey Ober thing. Okay, Aaron Judge since May 1st. He's batting .375.
I have always
home runs.
said
he's batting .375 since May 1st. That's
I've
incredible.
always said Aaron Judge is the Bailey Ober of hitters.
Yeah.
All right. That seems like a good point to move on to bullpens for the Blue Jays. On Friday, Chad Green pitched a clean 9th inning for his 11th save, 54% rostered. He's just a closer, and he's still out there in about half of CBS leagues. For the Rockies on Friday, Victor Vodnik picked up his 7th save, and then on Sunday, he gave up a hit but picked up his 8th save. He also just looks like the guy for the Rockies. He's pitched well, 18% rostered. For the D-backs on Friday, Justin Martinez got the 9th inning with the game tied, facing 2, 3, and 4 in the Phillies lineup. He gave up a hit but allowed no runs. The D-backs then walked it off in the bottom of the 9th inning. So Justin Martinez earned the win, and it just kind of feels like he's moved to the front of the line for saves there, right?
Absolutely. In that game on Friday, I believe they had a lead in the 8th. AJ Puck gave up a run. So what would have been a save situation ended up being a win for Justin Martinez. But his usage, I think, in like 4 straight games has basically just been, this is closer usage.
Mm-hmm. For the Marlins on Saturday, Calvin Fauché pitched a clean 9th inning with the game tied as the home team in that one. And then on Sunday, Fauché was unavailable. He had pitched 3 of 4 entering this one. Andrew Nardi got the 8th inning with a 3-run lead. He gave up 2 runs, but recorded 5 outs. And it was George Soriano who got the final out for his first save. For the Royals on Saturday, we mentioned Lucas Erceg got the final 4 outs and picked up his 4th save of the season, his first with the Royals. 14% rostered. Kind of feels like he's going to be the guy moving forward for them. For the Brewers on Saturday, Devin Williams struck out the side for his first save of the season. The Orioles, it continues to just kind of be a mess. On Saturday, Yennier Cano entered the 8th with a 3-run lead. He got 2 quick outs and then allowed 2 singles. He was replaced by lefty Cionel Perez, who gave up back-to-back walks. He allowed a run in. And then Sir Anthony Dominguez got the 9th inning with a 2-run lead. He walked 1, but picked up his 2nd save, his first with the Orioles. And then on Sunday, Craig Kimbrell got the 8th inning with the game tied. He walked 3, gave up a sacrifice fly. He took his fourth loss.
Ooh.
His velocity is way down.
Does Dominguez get the next save? Can we drop Kimbrell? What do you guys say?
I've been pretty optimistic that Kimbrell would regain the role in short order, but then he has this outing. You mentioned his velocity's down, Chris. And Sir Anthony Dominguez is part of the equation now. And not only did he get the save this weekend, but he worked the 9th inning with a 4-run lead twice earlier this month. I'd prioritize him over Yennier Cano, if nothing else. And I'd be a little worried about Kimbrel with the presence of Dominguez.
Absolutely.
For the Yankees on Sunday, Clay Holmes entered with 2 outs in the 8th inning, a 2-run lead, a runner on second. Corey Seager was coming up, got him to ground out. Holmes stayed out there for the 9th inning. He gave up a run on a hit and 2 walks, barely converted his 25th save. If this was another team that had a better bullpen, I would say Clay Holmes is on the hot seat. I just don't really see anywhere else the Yankees can turn. So I think he's safe, but I also don't know how good Clay Holmes is. So for the Tigers on Sunday, Tyler Holton recorded 4 outs across the 6th and 7th innings. Will Vest got the 9th inning with a 1-run lead. He walked 1, but picked up his first save. Jason Foley had last pitch on Friday. Shelby Miller pitched Friday and Saturday. I don't know that it matters.
As far as I'm concerned, the Tigers will have a closer. Even if they came out and said, Will Vest is the closer, I think I care.
And then on Sunday for the Pirates, I just wanted to mention Aroldis Chapman pitched a scoreless 8th inning with the game tied. David Bednar pitched a scoreless 9th, and then he came back out for the 10th inning where he gave up 2 runs and he was charged with his 5th loss. Who do you guys think gets the next save?
As I said Friday, and they didn't agree, but I think we've seen enough from Bednar, and they should just switch to Chapman at this point. So I did pick up Chapman in those 15-team roto leagues.
How would you guys rank? Let's see. Let's do Ryan Walker, Lucas Erceg, Justin Martinez, Sir Anthony Dominguez, and Aroldis Chapman. I have them on the rundown if you want to.
I see you typing them in. This is cool.
I'd go Walker, Martinez, Gap, Erceg, Gap, Chapman, Dominguez.
I think I agree with that, yeah.
Okay. To stream or not to stream on Monday, some options here. We have Ben Lively up against the Cubs, Andrew Abbott up against the Cardinals, Brian Bayo gets the Rangers.
Brandon Pfaadt against the Rockies on the road.
Yeah,
against the Rockies in Arizona. That's probably the best one.
He's too rostered.
He's probably too. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I cheated. Cal Quantrill at the D-backs.
I don't really like any of these. I could see Lively and Abbott having good starts, but I don't want to bet on either of them.
Yeah, this stinks.
Okay. What about Tuesday? Is it as stinky? I don't know. Trevor Rogers gets the Nationals. We get Tyler Phillips up against the Marlins. Shane Baz gets the Astros. Paul Blackburn revenge game against Oakland.
Yeah,
I like Blackburn.
Eduardo Rodriguez gets the Rockies. I think that's his season debut.
No, it's his second start. His first one was, yeah.
This first one didn't inspire a lot of confidence. So I think Blackburn's the only one I'm genuinely liking here. If you're forcing me to pick a second, because you like to force me.
I think I'd go Rodriguez, honestly.
I think I'd go Shane Baz. If forced. So there you go. You got 3 names total.
All right, we are going to wrap there for Scott and Chris. I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. And we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.